Loonicorns, welcome back to my channel, Thrive with Lou. If you're new here, my name is Luna. I am a musician, a healer, a teacher, manifesting my best reality. Let's be friends on all the social networks. Just search my handle. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also Voicey. That's probably my favorite right now. Be sure to check out my Vocal Warmies Friday, every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I give you tips and tricks on how to become a better singer. Also, you can check out all of my original music on all major streaming platforms. Just search Anna Luna. Alright, so in today's episode of More Snare in My Headphones, I'm going to be teaching you about the RC24 by Native Instruments. It's a vocal plugin, and we are going to be using it in Studio One 4. So I have that already loaded up here, and I'm going to get you switched over so that you can see what I am doing. See you in a sec. Alright, so right now you are looking at the RC24. I'm going to be going over a lot really quickly so that you can kind of get to know this plugin. Right now the session that I have loaded up is from last Thursday's More Snare in My Headphones, when I wrote a song and then recorded some vocals really quick. So we're going to be working on the reverb for those vocals. So the RC24 by Native Instruments.
I did not know this was, Native Instruments was located in Germany. I did not know that's where their headquarters was. Random fun fact for you.
So anyways, the RC24, it has a very cool, sleek design, easy to use. The reverbs that they use, the 3 reverbs, are based off of 80s and 90s reverbs where they were like really warm and had that like kind of crispy vintage sound. Okay, so just really briefly, the pre-delay and depth determine the size and feel of the tail, of the amount of reverb. The modulation and intensity add spin and motion. The bass, the mid, and the high slides provide tone control. And then there's a toggle button up here for A and B comparisons. So you can have settings on A and then you can have different settings on B and toggle back and forth and see which one you like best. At the top, we have our global parameters. We have 3 different reverb algorithms. The rooms emulate size and characteristics. And then you have your choice of the wet and mix. The wet outputs the reverberated signal only. The mix is a combination of the reverberated signal and the original unprocessed signal. So basically, if you want to insert the effect, use the mix. If you want to send the effect, then you would use the wet. And then we have this knob that adjusts the balance between the two, the unprocessed and the processed signal.
Okay.
Now we're gonna move on to the display. So the display right there, you have the spectrum tab and the level meter, which allows you to monitor the input and output signal levels in real time. They are indicated by these horizontal segments. The little I is your input and the little O is your output. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's really tiny. I'll try and zoom in on it. There's also an additional clipping light on both sides that'll indicate yellow in case of internal processing overload. The spectrum basically displays visually the effect of the reverb on the oncoming signal. There are zoom controls, zoom in and out right here. And basically you have your x-axis, which is the reverb time in seconds, so the time that it takes for the reverb to fade away. And on your y-axis you have frequencies and hertz right here. So this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis, and it shows you the reverb in real time. I'm going to attach a chart so that you guys can see what the different types of reverb typically look like. And then we're gonna go over to our options tab, and then I'm gonna give you a little bit of knowledge about what these knobs do. So you have your input gain and your output gain. Obviously these control and affect the volume. So make sure that when you are adjusting them, you're paying attention to this segment, the segmented region that indicates whether or not you could be clipping. Okay, so basically when I select small hall or large hall, the reverb color selector will pop up. So this indicates whether or not I want like a muffled, gloomy sound with the dark function, or if I want that like sparkly, bright reverb that's good for singing on the bright reverb. But you can only use those functions if you select the small or the large hall. So now we're going to talk about the quantization noise. The quantization noise enables sounds that are created as a side effect of the lower bit resolution of classic hardware for a more authentic vintage sound. So basically, quantization noise adds in those little sounds that would happen naturally if you were using like a vintage reverb. And then up here you have the real-time audio analysis, and basically that shows the live audio input. So if you want to save CPU, it might be better to leave it off if you have like a lot of other plugins running, because otherwise it takes up a lot of your CPU power. All right, and now we are going to talk about the parameters a little bit more in depth. So first off, we have the pre-delay fader, which adjusts the initial delay between the original signal and the first reverberant sound. This can like help you make it sound really unique. Like the pre-delay, you can get really creative with it. It's very interesting to me because I'm like the type of musician that I am, like my ear is everything. I go off of my ear for literally everything. So for a lot of this stuff, like, you know, I would just go with my ear and trust that. But when you get down to like the science behind all this stuff, it goes a lot further, you know. So the pre-delay, you can time it out, and this can be used really creatively. Then we have the depth fader. So the depth fader adjusts the apparent distance between the listening point and the source signal. So when you increase it, it creates a richer, fuller sound, but not as focused as far as like the reverb goes. Higher values of depth emphasize the running reverberation, the one that's occurring while the music is going. So like after they hit the note and it keeps going. Whereas lower values bring out the attack of the sound. So like when it happens basically versus how long it happens for. Then we're going to move on to our modulation tool. There's 4 different modes, A through D. These modes subtly modulate the reverb tail in various ways. This can lead to somewhat unstable phases and pitches during the decaying phases while producing a warmer sound. So basically, like A has the least impaction of sound, and then like when you go to B or when you go to C or D, it gets stronger basically. Okay, and then the intensity fader adjusts the intensity of the modulation. So the intensity fader works for the modulation. That's why it has a little arrow that attaches to it. So whether you're on A, B, C, or D, the intensity is controlled by this little knob right here. Then we have our frequency related parameters, which is bass, obviously that affects the lower frequency band. The mid affects the reverb time for the higher frequency band. And then the crossover adjusts the split frequency between the two. So this is kind of, the crossover is kind of your mid, the bass is your lower, and the mid is pretty much your highs. And then your high cut fader right here adjusts the cutoff frequency of a low pass filter that is applied to the processed signal. So basically the high cut fader cuts off like the pitchy highs that you don't want, the ones that sound unnatural. So that brings those guys down so that your sound can be more natural. So it cuts off the frequency of a low pass filter. All right, and that, my friends, is pretty much it. This is the RC24. So I'm going to go ahead and select just a little segment of our track, and then we're gonna mess with the reverb and just like play around with it so I can show you guys the different tones. So we'll start off with a room reverb. Swiping through the line like it's Tinder. So right now we're on the mix, right? So we have the reverberated signal combined with the original signal. This is just the reverberated signal only. So you can hear how different that sounds. So I prefer the mix for most of my stuff. Up here, you also have presets, so you can go through all these different presets. I really like this Big Clear by Large. So I'm gonna take that back a little bit, because this would be a verse, so I wouldn't want like crazy verb on it. I guess Photoshop a do. I get all my food delivered. My air comes better too. I was swiping through the line. Just adjusting a little bit. Let's go to mode. Let's actually go all the way to mode D, and then we'll see the intensity. I get all my food delivered. My air comes better too. I was swiping through the line like it's Tinder. Boy, I visualize like it's 22. Picture her on a yacht somewhere. I guess Photoshop a do. Now you can hear the modulation more since I turned it up here. So bring that back down a little bit. I was swiping through the line like it's Tinder. Boy, I visualize like it's 22. It's still a little too much for me, so I think I'm gonna go back to mode B. I guess Photoshop a do. I get all my food delivered. Yeah. So I would keep messing with it for a little bit longer just to get that like perfect balance, or even, you know, toggle between the A and the B settings, just so you have some type of comparison. But yeah, that's basically the RC24 by Native Instruments. That's it in a nutshell. I wanted to do its own special video because it seems very basic, but it has a lot of specs and a lot of different things that you can do to make it cool. So I'll be excited to showcase what I did using this when I actually release this song. It's called Elroy, so I think I'll release it sometime next year on my album. So I will keep you guys posted on that, but thank you for joining me on the progress along the way. Maybe in a couple episodes, if you guys are interested, we can talk about Isotope Nectar 2, and then we can talk about all of the different, you know, functionalities that this plugin has. It's pretty in-depth. There's a lot going on with Isotope Nectar, so that'll definitely be its own video if that's something you guys are interested in. But thank you for checking out the RC24 with me. This is probably one of my favorite reverb plugins to use. Thank you guys so much for checking out this session of More Snare in My Headphones. I hope you guys learned a lot about the RC24 by Native Instruments. I had like recorded a really good part about how I'm like not quite nerdy enough to have a nerd card yet, but I'm getting there. But my camera was like zoomed in a lot, so it looks like this. Because I had it like ultra zoomed in so that you could see my computer screen. So I'm not gonna talk about that again. It was just, I wanted to share that with you because it's hilarious and we're human, and when we mess up, it's funny. So, or it is to me. But anyways, I was talking about how when I was learning about plugins, I couldn't really find a lot of videos that I liked or like got into, you know what I mean? I just kind of found a lot of them to be a little boring. So I hope this one was a little bit more interesting for you, something new and fresh. And eventually I want to get like something to, you know, screen record my computer so that I can just like cut to, you know, my actual screen. So I'm working on that. I will definitely get that up and running for you soon. But I really hope you liked this video. Comment below, share with, you know, some producer that you know that could use this plugin, or just use in-depth explanation of what it is, you know what I mean? Because I read about all this stuff and then I like to interpret it in a way that makes sense to other people. So I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. And comment below if you liked this video, what you would like to see from me next. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Be sure to check me out tomorrow for my Vocal Warmies Friday at 2 p.m. on my Instagram Live, and watch the video before you go there so you know all the workouts before we perform them live together. Thanks again for joining me today for more snare in my headphones. I love you guys. It's been 5 weeks. We're going strong, so yeah, good for us, and keep at it. So I'll see you on the next one.